Say what you want about Polaris, you absolutely cannot accuse them of being lazy. Year after year after year, they continue to give us products that are better than the previous versions. And products that include the features we ask for. Barely a season goes by after a competitor releases something new that attempts to rival what Polaris has before Polaris themselves hit back harder and faster than ever before. The Ranger is the original Polaris side-by-side. It's the longest running side-by-side model in their fleet, and over the years it has enjoyed long stretches with little or no changes or upgrades at all, mostly because it really didn't have any competition back in those days. Today, though, the Ranger has a plethora of competition, and as a result, it has undergone numerous redesigns in only a few short years. The latest addresses a long list of features its most direct competitor, Can-Am's Defender, had that the Ranger didn't. From an almost silly amount of in-dash storage space, including an upper and lower glove box, to space for no less than 8 water bottles, to the passenger seat that flips up revealing a space for larger items underneath, to simplified accessory integration, this newest version of the Ranger leaves nothing for its competition to brag about. But as usual, this new Ranger on its own was not good enough for Polaris. It was good enough for us, as Mark clearly articulated in his late season test ride last year, but for Polaris, it needed a little extra. So a bunch of special edition models were released, including the heated and air-conditioned Northstar, the ultra gnarly and capable Highlifter, and this season, a new model landed in our yard, this one called the Backcountry. So what does the Backcountry Ranger 1000 get that a standard Ranger doesn't? For starters, it gets Polaris's proprietary Pursuit camo graphics. I'm not normally a big fan of camo, but in this configuration it both makes sense and it looks pretty rad. But that's just bling, so to speak. The actual meat of the Backcountry is much more technical than you might think at first glance. Arched A-arms front and rear are an outwardly visible upgrade and provide a massive increase not in the actual height of the vehicle's ground clearance, but rather in the actual space under the vehicle for obstacles to pass, which may actually be more important than just a taller ride height. It also gets a full snorkel setup just like the Highlifter. Now these snorkels are centrally mounted behind the back seat, and they'll let you take your Ranger deeper than you were ever previously brave enough to go. They look pretty slick too. If you do attempt to test the capabilities of your snorkel setup, you'll be super thankful that Polaris's massive Pro HD 4,500-pound wirelessly controlled winch is factory mounted behind the beefy front bumper. Of course, this is all stuff that you can easily see from the outside. What you can't see is the fully sealed electronics, lowered gear ratios, and the steel reverse drive gear setup. Obviously, ATVs and side-by-sides are meant to get wet and muddy, so you'd think that fully sealed electronics would be commonplace, but you'd be wrong. While many electrical components on a typical side-by-side are sealed, not all of them are. With the Ranger Backcountry, Polaris has gone one step above and beyond what's typical to ensure electrical issues due to moisture are all but erased by sealing everything and moving larger components up higher under the hood. The lower final gear ratio is an interesting and somewhat confusing feature in my opinion. This version of the Ranger comes with a set of just 27-inch Maxxis MU 511 and 521 tires, so the lower gearing is not to compensate for a huge set of wheels. But the real reason a lower overall gear ratio was chosen for this vehicle was simply because it allows for smoother, more controlled operation in tight and tricky situations, and it increases the vehicle's towing and hauling capabilities. Both very good things when you're way out in the bush getting stuff done. And since Rangers are speed limited from the factory, even with lower gearing, the overall top speed of the vehicle won't be adversely affected. A known weak link, no pun intended, in a Polaris drivetrain has historically been the chain-driven reverse system. The Backcountry gets a new steel gear-driven reverse system that is, for all intents and purposes, bulletproof. It's the same system that's found on the Highlifter editions, so if it can handle the abuse the Highlifter endures, it can pretty much handle anything. I guess the biggest question I had when I first got my hands on the Backcountry was a pretty basic one. Simply put, what is it for? Most special edition vehicles have a very clear and specific intended use, but this one was a bit confusing to me. It has all kinds of extra capabilities, but for what specifically? And therein lies the answer itself. For what? Well, for whatever. The name Backcountry implies exploration and adventure, and the features list hints at the ability to go anywhere and do just about anything. What did we do with our Ranger 1000 Backcountry? We did exactly what it was meant to do, a little bit of everything. More or less specifically, anything we felt like doing, and it did it all extremely well. From trail riding to working around the yard and job site to exploring otherwise untouched places to getting us in and out of places other side-by-sides struggle to go, our Ranger 1000 Backcountry did everything we asked it to do without a single complaint. Do you need the Backcountry Special Edition over a standard Ranger 1000 EPS? Many people will truly benefit from the extras it includes, but even if you don't officially need it, you can't deny the fact that your garage would look pretty dang cool with one parked inside.
Thanks for watching Dirt Trax Television. For more great content, click on one of the links on the screen and make sure to tune back every day for fresh new content in season on Dirt Trax TV.